Hey guys, my name is Kira Hill. I'm a certified sommelier and owner of wine education company Vinoculture. So I often get asked, and by often I mean like 5 times a day, how did you become a sommelier? How did you get into the wine business? So I wanted to kind of share my story with you. And if you are contemplating the leap into the wine industry as a career, maybe it will give you some ideas and some inspiration to make the jump. So I did not, like every sommelier out there, think that I wanted to be a wine professional when I was 5 years old. I went from every career, from a meteorologist to a fashion designer to save the world and end world hunger. So what I actually got my degree in was Latin American Studies, and I studied post-war conflict resolution and economic development and human rights. So not really related to wine at all, but my first job ever when I was in high school, first official job that is, I was in the restaurant industry. I started at a cafe. I was a dishwasher. I was like a little sandwich maker, a barista, kind of anything that you told me to do is what I would do in that cafe. And I really loved the one-on-one interaction with customers, and the whole hospitality industry connected with my personality really well. So all through college, I paid my way through school, working in restaurants, and as soon as I turned 21, I got a job at a wine store as a cashier, just bringing people up at the wine store as soon as I turned 21. And the reason why I was interested in wine in the first place was I went to school in Miami, Florida International University, and it's the number 6 school in the world for hospitality. I wasn't studying that, but all of my friends were. And so instead of on the weekends going to frat parties with kegs of beer, we'd go to people's houses where chefs were trying to make these 5-course wine pairing dinners just to practice their craft. We got to volunteer with South Beach Food and Wine Festival, and had so much interaction with the food and wine industry, and specifically hospitality and catering events to people, that it really just kept me falling in love with that side of the industry, but didn't think it was going to be my career. So get this job as a cashier at a wine store right outside DC, and loved it, and just started asking all of the questions. I remember asking questions like, what really is the difference between a $5 bottle, a $50 bottle, and a $500 bottle? Is it really worth $500? How do you know? So the most basic questions that you can think of, I was asking those, and just didn't really have an idea still that I wanted to go into that career path, but I was pursuing it intellectually. I finally found myself falling in love with wine when I tasted a Right Bank Bordeaux from the area of Saint-Emilion. It was a Merlot-based wine. It was a 2000 vintage by Chateau Fonroc. If you ever get a chance to try it, definitely give it a shot. So all of a sudden, tasting that wine, I realized wine was so much more than just some really great juice that we love to drink. Wine was in and of itself like poetry, just liquid, bottled inside this glass, and the world just opened up to me, and I realized that, oh, there was a lot more going on in this wine besides something to drink and get you a nice little buzz. So fell in love with that wine, started selling this wine to all of my customers as a cashier. People buying, kegs of beer, cases of $5 Chardonnay. I'm like, you have to try this wine. And after one day, my managers were like, yep, you're going on the sales floor. But I had no training. I had no idea what I was doing, how to sell wine, what the difference between a Cabernet and a Merlot was. All I did was taste wine, believe what I thought about it, whether it was delicious, whether it was what the occasion was that I'd want to drink it in, and I just told people honestly my thoughts on the wine. And so I ended up selling a lot of wine that way, just being authentic and connecting to people in that manner. So after a year of that, cashier and on the sales floor in this awkward manner, I was a full-time sales associate on the floor, still no professional training, still paying my way through school. Then finally, I graduate school with this degree, with a lot of student loan debt, and realized that if I want to get a job in nonprofits, there's no way in this world I can pay off all my student loans on a DC nonprofit salary, which is like an unpaid internship that you're competing with PhDs of 20 years of experience for. So I took a job managing the wine store and managed the wine store for about 2 years, paid off all my student loans, and meanwhile, I developed this whole wine education program for customers and the new employees coming in that I really fell in love, not just with wine and selling wine one-on-one to customers, but then the process of educating people and walking with them on their wine education journey to see them develop over not just, a couple of weeks of me selling wine, but over years of me tasting wine with them to see their palate expand and develop. So really fell in love with wine education in that way. I moved down to Virginia, where I live now, here in Norfolk, about 7 years ago, and started working at a wine bar in Norfolk, and thought that I was going to move to Mexico, get my PhD. Obviously, it's 7 years later, and I'm still here in Norfolk, so that didn't pan out. What I finally realized was that wine, and specifically wine education, was my true passion. And as much as I loved studying Latin American studies and economic development, I was going to be happier in the wine industry and teaching people, interacting with them one-on-one, that process of expanding people's palates and taking them on journeys across the world just through the wine in their glass. So I became really passionate about that and realized that that's just kind of what I wanted to do. It was an emotional roller coaster to try and get to that point and to try and reconcile myself with the fact that I just spent a whole lot of money on a degree that I wasn't going to use. But I have zero regrets whatsoever. I loved being in school. I'm a huge nerd, so I love studying anything. And I found myself in wine and back in the restaurant industry after 16 years old, first job all the way to now, and knew that it wasn't just a job to pay my way through school. This was a career. This is what I wanted to do with my life, and I've never been happier. So after a few years running the wine bar in Norfolk, I decided to leave the restaurant industry and open up my own business, Vino Culture, where all I do is wine education. So I teach restaurant classes that are open to the public. I travel all around because I didn't want the education to be limited to just one city or just one demographic. I wanted to travel and expand my reach over all the area. So I do that. I do private events in people's homes. That's a lot more casual, a lot more fun. It brings the party to the wine and the wine to the party in a really fun way. And then I just started these YouTube videos where the goal is to be able to expand this reach beyond the people I physically meet and be able to expand that further out there. So if you are interested in hearing more about my journey or other people's journey, I encourage you to reach out. If you're following anyone else on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, and their journey in wine, people are passionate about what they do if they're in this business because it's hard work, it's long hours, you generally work when everybody else is off. So you don't do this if you do not love what you do. So if you love what you do, you're excited about sharing that with other people. So reach out to anyone, message them, email them, call them. Someone's wanting to share their story with you and hopefully inspire you to take that leap into the wine industry and find your new career sharing wine with other people or being a wine writer or working in a restaurant or working in a wine retail store. There's so many options for you. So if you love wine and you're considering it, reach out to someone, including myself. You can message me or find me on my website, vinocultureva.com, and we're happy to share our story with you. Thanks so much for tuning in. We shall see you next time, and until then, hope you're drinking some delicious wine. Cheers.